you gotta get your finger like halfway in your asshole and wash it clean. And I'm like,
Cleans with their finger.
I was like, so you wash the? She's like, clean, wash it clean, and clean, wash it clean, wash it clean, wash it clean, and clean, wash it clean. I was like, clean, wash it clean, and clean.
Everybody, welcome to the Stiff Truth. I am Scott Casanova. Everybody knows my homo-friendly friend. No, just homo erotic enthusiast. I'm not quite sure what we want to call you today, but Bob West, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. It sounds like you were describing the volleyball scene in Top Gun.
That's another scene where I always catch you in your room with the door locked with the vacuum cleaner on. Goodness gracious.
I was studying. It's an art history class. Western civilization and filmography history. It's relax, buddy. Relax. I'm doing good. You know, the coves got everyone down, but we've switched some things up and pretty much have stopped going to the grocery stores at this point. I've been doing the order online and go sit in the parking lot or whatever and call them and they come out and bring your shit. Which, by the way, that's fantastic. So,
well, let's cut through the bullshit real quick. Are you using Instacart or no? You're not, are you?
I always use Instacart, but when I don't, I order ahead. So I went to Albertsons, right? We had an order and then come out and there's like 10, 15 things that they didn't have and they were out. Probably because the shelves are fucking bare because people are animals. But so I'm like, oh,
this
you
is
know
true.
what? See if we can find it at Target because less people shop there for groceries. You know what I mean? So let's just look there, right? So we find everything that we need and they had it or whatever. So I roll up to Target last night on my second trip out for curbside pickup. Drive up to Target, right? And I'm, jamming out my alt rock music. I roll up and there's a line outside of Target wrapping around the building. Everyone was 6 feet apart wearing masks. Beautiful. Look at them go. But there's only 75 people or something allowed in the store at one time. So it is what it is. So there's a line. So cool. So I go, windows down, jam my music right next to everyone's looking at me drive by like, who's this asshole?
Well, to give a little context too, they were looking at you like that too because you were blaring Creed and POD out of the car too. That just give everybody a little bit more detail.
It was Lifehouse. No, I'm just kidding. It's Nickelback.
Bob, I got some things to do today. I'm gonna have to end the show.
So I roll up, right, and I go to the parking lot and I get in my spot and I put my mask on because I know that I'm gonna be a couple feet away from this person. Respect. And then so I call them, and the lady comes within 30 seconds over there. She's like, "What's your name?" I'm like, "It's West." "What's your code?" I just show her my phone. She's like, "Cool, I have your stuff right here." And then she goes and she, because you check in when you get there, like, I forget which place does that. I don't like the pizza place or whatever. So you check in when you get there, so they already know that you're there. So they come and they load up my car. Don't even have to get out. She just opens up the trunk and puts it all in my I have a grocery organizer thing back there. So she puts it on there because I'm like super hip. And
hell yeah,
she's like, "That's it. That's everything. We had everything. So have a great day." And I'm like, "You too, be safe." And I get in. This is all, mind you, within 2 minutes of me parking.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I leave, roll down the windows, volume up, Lifehouse back on, cruising right back around that line. And they see me now leaving, jamming music like an asshole with my groceries. And all I could think is, this is how shopping should always be. COVID be damned. So after the vaccine's out and we're all back to normal, I just want to order my shit and go park with my, Nickelback playing and have some, high school kid come and drop the groceries off in the back there, and then I'll take off. Thanks for saving me about a half an hour or 45 minutes.
It is actually pretty nice. I've done the curbside pickup at Target and a couple other places before. I mean, you just kind of let them know on your phone, "Hey, I'm here, chill." Somebody comes out, loads up your car, boom, bam. It's nice. Now, I was actually thinking about something too, because it sounds like people in Albuquerque are, on a whole, from your experience, just from this example, are taking things a little bit more seriously. Masking up. I do wonder if the auto thieves and the criminals are just as considerate. Have you noticed when this has been happening? Are they masking up while they're breaking in the cars now? Because that would be just leaps and bounds, more respectful and professional than they used to be back in the day.
I don't know. I live in Rio Rancho, and they don't really allow crime here. So I'd have to drive into Albuquerque to get a better view of that.
You don't only live in Rio Rancho, you live on like the ass end of Rio Rancho. That's like it's touching the edge of the earth. I'm surprised you don't fall off the flat earth there right outside the house if you're not careful.
Yeah, I live about as far as civilization's allowed to go. It's like my house and then reservation, right?
Oh, we gotta love that.
So yeah, it's definitely a quiet, neighborhood. I honestly, I don't really see a lot of that. So, and when I'm stuck in my house all the time with my guns,
Yeah.
it is what it is. We don't go out very much.
That's okay. Hey, we're almost at the finish line. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a bit, but we're almost there. Just as we've always kind of used this reference, just grab the pillow, bite your lip, just put up with it. You're gonna get
bite
through
the
this.
pillow.
Whatever you got to do, whatever helps you get through the next few minutes of pain, or in our scenario here, maybe the next few months. We're almost there. I want to talk about something, Bob. And I'm about to say, I guess I have to do it too. I'm about to say, fuck Facebook, fuck Twitter. I don't know if you've heard, but there's this amazing new, very objective platform that, man, the diversity and the opinions are just off the charts. Are we going to be Parler people now? Is this what we have to do? It seems like the tides are turning. It's becoming the very popular thing. But Bob, I don't know too much about it. Have you researched Parler? Well, here it comes. Here it comes.
I would have invested in it a couple of months ago.
I know
that would have been pretty sweet, just enough to get that surge of people.
Was it like 3-4 million people within the week after the election, something like that? It was pretty massive.
Yeah, and it's not just Parler. There was another one too. There's like there's like 2 or 3 of them that people started migrating to. But
Parler's the one that I think has got the most, I guess, just the most traction recently. And all kidding aside here, I obviously was being a little sarcastic about it being a very open-minded platform, but that's what they're campaigning on, right? That's their advertising is, hey, come here. We don't judge you. We don't pull down any type of false information or fake news or, illegitimate sources. Post all your stupid shit that you want and let's perpetuate the craziness, right? But it seems to be a very, very hardcore, extreme right-wing platform from what I understand. But I don't know. Everybody's saying they're being muted on Facebook right now. And I get it, right? You don't want somebody with opposing views that could potentially help you change or upgrade your way of thinking. You want everybody to have the same views perpetuating that you have. So you are always reinforced that what you're saying is right. There's nothing else. Seems very Trump-like.
Well, I mean, you took sociology, right?
I did.
Okay.
In fact, I took so many sociology classes before I realized they don't count for your business major at all. So I went up to like 400 level classes and realized I just wasted a bunch of money, but very fun classes, by the way.
So then you have a great idea and concept of groupthink, and groupthink doesn't work if you have opposing ideas. I mean, that's just out the window. So you have to have that collective single point of view, single pane view of everything, so that everyone can get on the same page. Yeah, I agree. It's become like a conservative echo chamber of conspiracy theories and extreme right propaganda. I was watching TikTok because I do that oftentimes. And there was this lady came on this. She's like, I'm just here to the account's called Parler Martyr, right? And she's just like,
oh, that sounds intense.
I just want to like read this this post that this user on Parler left, and it was basically to paraphrase, It was a conservative right man saying, I've got a solution to all of our problems here, and we can live in a utopian society. All we have to do, you would think at this point, he said, is find a common ground,
Work together,
all work together.
unity, right? Yeah,
So
100%.
instead, it
Hit me with it.
continues,
Hit me with it.
is kill 2 Democrats. If
Huh.
every one of us kill 2 Democrats, we'll live in a utopian society.
Wow. You know what? I guess if you think about it, if every extremist killed 2 Democrats, I mean, you sure would get rid of a lot of pushback, I guess, with your
know.
ideologies.
Trump might have only lost by like 3 million votes.
I know. That's pretty impressive, too. And then a recount makes a little bit more sense, especially if you kill a couple of more Democrats before the recount. This makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like in your friends tell your friends and their friends tell, it's kind of like one of those multiplying things. I like that.
So in the end, if I'm not going to say that that's everyone on Parler, obviously. I would say that people just want to post their shit without, sometimes going out and verifying sources, how they teach you in like journalism classes and shit, or even high level English classes. And you just want to like put up some story that you're like, that's probably good, probably right. Are you going to verify that? Nah. And then Facebook flags you. It probably gets annoying after a while, right? To have to verify all your own sources before you post something that's political. Or just, you do what I do and pretty much stop posting things that are political on Facebook. And my
Ooh,
problem was solved.
that's weird. That's weird. Don't make it the center of attention in your life and don't project it onto everybody else ad nauseum, and it actually dies down coming back to you. That's an interesting concept. That's kind of weird. You think if you would focus on something, it might just go away, but maybe not. It kind of seems to me like Parler has become like the leopard island of political throwaways, you know what I mean? And people that have been banished or what have you, they go to like this leper island and they start their own little social media network.
Is Timmy the dentist there from Rudolph? Is it like the island of like misfit toys? Is that where you find like the snowman guy and the vest and the tie? He doesn't wear pants.
yes. There's a lot of people there. Well, and it's interesting too, because after we started chit chatting about it, and honestly, I didn't really. I guess it's twofold here. I really didn't give 2 shits about what Parler was because I'm already kind of fed up with having more options for social media. As you know already, yeah. I can't even push myself to learn how really fucking Instagram or Twitter even work, because it's like, why learn this? I already have a platform. If I want to be on social media, Facebook, that's fine. I'm cool with it. So that was one thing, but then I heard so much of the rumblings here about just such a breath of fresh air to get out of the I don't know what they're feeling. Is it mainly that they just don't want any opposition to anything they're saying politically at all? Is that what's really upsetting people? I almost feel like calling these people snowflakes. I hate to say it.
Yeah, and I will tell you this: I've actually lost a friend or 2 on Facebook, and I'm pretty sure it was over politics, which is strange because I've never like delete a friend. You'd have to like do something pretty fucked up for me to delete you. I just unfollow people so I can clean up my feed. I mean, I don't have to like stare at your political bullshit if you're always posting political bullshit. But at the end, I can separate the political bullshit, which is like normal friendship. We don't have to agree on everything to be able to like want to go fishing or camping or drink beers or watch football. Like none of that has to do with politics, and politics really only gets explosive every couple of years. Like what about the rest of fucking life in between now and then? So I don't really understand the ideology of I'm just not going to talk to you anymore because you voted for someone different. Did I? You don't fucking know that. You know who I voted for. You
don't know me. Yeah, nobody knows that Bob actually voted for Kanye West. So there's that. Talk about really wasting your fucking vote, buddy.
Speaking of Kanye, I'm glad you brought that up.
Segue.
I tweeted yesterday. I was in the tweeting spirit in the morning, and I actually made some original content. We call that OC.
I thought OC was Oxycontin. No?
Different biz. That's the wrestling ball biz. So I actually tweeted. So I was looking at Trump had tweeted something because him and Romney have been having a little Twitter squabble lately, right?
Ooh,
So
get the popcorn out.
Romney was like, "You need to just call this. I mean, you lost," and he was just like, "Well, let's you just accept all the cheating that goes on in voting because Obama thrashed you in 2012." And I was like, "Did he?" Because I remember that being fairly close. So I go and I pull up the 2012 election results. And when you look at that, yes, as far as total votes go, yeah, he got way less, but because there was an unprecedented amount of turnout. So you can't really compare total votes. So what you can compare is percentage of votes, right? Romney actually had about a whole percentage point closer to Obama than Trump was to Biden. So he was only a couple of points away, whereas Trump was like three points away. Not a huge difference, but as far as presidential elections go, that are normally pretty close, pretty big difference, right? So Romney did much better collecting the total of votes, right? So, but the thing that was interesting beyond all of that, that just confirmed my suspicion, was it showed me like the top 6 of 2012 and 2020 when I was looking at them. Did you know that Roseanne Barr ran for president in 2012?
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, she got 0.05. She got half a point. She got 0.05% of the votes in 2012. Roseanne fucking Barr.
Call me crazy. I wasn't living under a rock then either. How come I've never heard this? We heard about Kanye, right? Because he was kind of a spectacle and everything. But let's be honest, dude. Roseanne Barr, that's just as much as a spectacle, if you ask me. Just as much of a head scratcher. Like, what are you doing, Roseanne? Like, wow.
I'll tell you what she was doing. She was collecting a larger percentage of the vote than Kanye West did in 2020.
Well, I'll tell you what. She is more intimidating than Kanye, 100%. I don't know if I would, be going toe to toe with her and kind of get under her skin or something like that. She seems like she could be, I don't know, pretty threatening. Kanye, on the other hand, I just kind of I just move along with my business. That's interesting. I had no idea that, and I had no recollection of that.
Nobody does. That's why I had to tweet about it. I was like, did you guys know that Roseanne Barr got a larger percentage of the vote than Kanye West did? This is the moral of the story here.
So I don't know how we got to that from Parler. I'm gonna redirect real quick here because I did want to talk a little bit more about Parler. This is what I did think was interesting. Did you know, and I just did a little research on Parler like last week, that originally it was supposed to be in a nonpartisan or a bipartisan platform. However, being little entrepreneurs and being money hungry, when they realized that they started to collect more and more hardcore right-wing conservatives, they started catering their platform to hardcore conservatives to build up their membership. So the almighty dollar took a wholesome idea from these gentlemen that really wanted to create something that was free speech, no filter, no censorship. And they're like, wait, hold on a second. We notice overwhelmingly that the right loves this platform more than the left. Let's cater to that and build this thing up to make sure that no people on the left even want to enter this platform because they would be overwhelmed by just bombardment of criticism and whatnot. So interesting little fact there.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like the election results, right? It's not partisan, Scott. It's math, right? Do you want to have 100% or like 90% of half the country, or do you want 3% of all of the country?
Yeah.
I mean, they start with a good ideology, but then when you see the money start pouring in, you tend as an entrepreneur to lean on into that, right?
And I think it's interesting, though, too, because without the election and without a couple of countries, because I hear they have a huge, like, Middle Eastern, what is it, though? It's Saudi Arabian, like a membership base, because, like, the Saudi king or something like that, again, it's kind of a right and left over there. Like, a lot of people that want this old Saudi king back in power or something like that all join Parler because they're, like, basically, like, an alternative, like, kind of I guess, political party right now over there. And then you have a bunch of people in South America too, that are extreme, like hardcore, like right-wing kind of conservatives that have it. But I mean, without that though, and without this little spike after the election, I think it's going to die down. And one of the reasons it got so popular too, is there's a lot of right-wing politicians that said, fuck this, I'm going to Parler. Giuliani.
Where I can propagandize you with no restrictions.
Yeah. But like, Giuliani, who's the Senator Johnson? What's his name? I can't remember his name, but there's a handful. Candace Owens, was also quoted as like, being hardcore into it, what have you, and all that kind of stuff. But without that little spike, without the election, and everything, you have a quasi, somewhat popular alternative social media platform. I don't really think as a smart entrepreneur, you walk into this industry in this space, where you're competing with fucking TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I don't see that as a winning battle, being like an entrepreneur. Like, I'm going to go create an alternative social media platform. You're like, why? So you can like work at a gas station, like, cleaning windows and stuff at the end of the day. I don't see a lot of money in
your
it.
shit tanks and never launches, and you've invested your life savings into it. Great
Yeah.
shit.
You know what I mean? I just doesn't seem like a winning formula to me.
No, there's better ideas than to try to enter that space. But Parler's been around for a little bit.
2016, I believe, right?
So, there's a lot of social media choices, and depending on your like geographic area of the world, people use different shit. Like in South America, people still use MySpace. MySpace still has millions of people. Yeah, it's fun, crazy. But yeah, people use it all the way. Like, we use Facebook Messenger to do a lot of our chats here in America, right? A lot of people use Facebook Messenger. If you go to China and Southeast Asia and all that, India, they use WhatsApp as their primary source of chat. Not even text, just WhatsApp. WhatsApp is huge over there. And so it's very interesting how geographic, areas kind of dictate your social media consumption. But you are right with Parler in just adding another social media platform to the repertoire, because the one thing that I've been eating in my life with, working, school, children, the holidays, birthday, is more screen time to take time away from the rest of my priorities. That's what I've been missing. That's what I need.
You know what? I feel like I'm way too involved with my family's upbringing and my children. I need to be able to look at something else and type on something else. And yeah, basically you just have way more screen time. So I want to miss really important milestones in my child's upbringing. And right now I'm just way too involved for this shit. Let's go look for some alternative social media platforms. What do you say, huh? Parler? Let's get in there.
When I have a day off of work and I don't have any homework to do and the wife is handling the kids, Jadzia's napping or whatever, you know what I could do? I could probably, in between rounds of Call of Duty, squeeze in some Parler time while I'm waiting on the lobby to open up a new round. That's probably what I should do.
And you know what? It's probably like the best kind of instant gratification for your hardcore conservative views, instead of posting something on Facebook or Twitter. Because now you can literally, in between Call of Duty, you're like, hold on 1 second, get on there. The Jews are stealing all of our jobs. And you get like 1 million likes, like right out of the gate. Right on, brother. Like all this stuff. Fucking Confederate
it's a huge boost. My son's like, Daddy, are you ready for the next round of zombies? And I'm like, hold on. Franchising of people. You don't have to wait.
I'm promoting. Hold on, son. I'm promoting way long overdue ethnic cleansing. Hold on, just here. Just let me get over here. I'm doing this real quick. God damn. But that is interesting, bro. And that's weird that you said that. I was just looking up the guy. I mean, he left the company a long ago, but good old Tom Anderson from MySpace. He left the company in 2000.
Oh, yeah, I remember Tom. He's the guy that gave all the announcements.
Yeah, and he had that really cheesy picture of him in like the white tee, like turning back, looking all coy.
Yeah, he's just an average guy that lives in a $20 million mansion.
Yeah, but as everybody's getting older, Tom is 50 years old right now. Look at that. I bet you he's got a lot of money, that guy, too, and he doesn't deal with any of the bullshit that Zuckerberg has to deal with right now. Now, granted, did you hear, too? Total sidebar. Zuckerberg just got knocked to the side as the 4th richest, wealthiest man in the world now. Number 3, Elon Musk, after the announcement that his company is now in the S&P 500.
I'm waiting for SpaceX to go public. I want some of that.
Dude, I'm ready to move to Mars. I mean, I feel like fucking like Arnold Schwarzenegger back in Total Recall, like, Bobby, let's do it. Do what? Move to Mars.
I think that Starlink's going to take over OnStar. Like, Starlink's going to be the internet provider that's going to end up in all the mobile situations, all the cars, the police officers, all the satellite internet and everything. I think that's going to just go to Starlink because it's going to be so much cheaper, So I think there's going to be this huge boom, not just NASA missions, not just Mars missions, not just a moon base, whatever the fuck Elon's up to, but as soon as SpaceX goes, investment advice for all of the investors out there. As soon as there's an IPO and you're able to put large chunks of money into SpaceX. I'm just saying.
Large money into chunks of SpaceX, says Bob West.
You heard it here first.
And if his full name, just so you guys know to take him seriously, is Bob West Buffett. Okay, so don't fuck around. He knows what he's talking about. Case fucking closed. Now
it's at real Bob West on Twitter. So
because there's so many imposters.
I don't know whose dick I gotta suck to get more Twitter followers, but y'all need to get on that.
Hey, this guy who's
you're
dick?
Already following me, Scott. You missed the boat. Okay.
Damn it, son of a bitch! I can't buy a bucket over here. Christ,
I'm unfollowing you right now.
But I will say this: getting back to Parler just for a minute, we'll close up. We'll move on here, but. Yeah. God bless you guys. If you guys don't want any pushback and you want to live in a little political bubble where you're always going to be right, you can do one of two things. You can be a man, you can stay on all the other platforms and actually compete with people and actually go toe to toe with other points of views and maybe be told that you're wrong, or you need to do more research because that may develop a just more enlightened person at the end of the day. But if that's not appealing to you, I totally understand. Who the fuck would it be more enlightened and smarter and that kind of stuff? Parler is there. Enjoy it, guys. You won't be seeing me or Bob there, but good shit.
Yeah, and just in general, I don't think our Stiffies have as much of a problem with this as most of America. But remember to empty a little bit of your cup. You don't have to completely empty it out, but get a little bit of room in that cup so that you can always fit a little bit more knowledge in it.
Yeah, this is
write
true.
That down.
And keep your pen and pencil out and your paper, because empty your ball bag too. It's always very good for your attitude. You don't get snippy with people and bite off their heads. Just make sure you hit that decompressor a little bit on your ball bag. Empty that shit out every once in a while too. It's very healthy for everybody in your life, your friends and family. PSAs all around. Now, let's talk about the NFL. It's about a little bit past mid-season here. We've had some bold predictions at the beginning of the season. I think we might have been a little bit off on some, maybe some reinforced, but what's your take so far on the glorious, unique 2020 NFL season?
Well, it's very interesting how the AFC West and the NFC West seem like far and above the rest of the league, just in general. I mean, Denver aside, but you've got the Raiders, Kansas City, and now San Diego with their new rookie quarterback. That's just lights out.
Herbert, that dude is he's intense. Like one of those guys you're like, okay, I can see why they drafted that guy. And I can see why they started him over Tyrod Taylor when Tyrod Taylor came back from getting his lung punctured, by the doctor on the team. Yeah, he's mean. Yeah,
those guys are just money. They could beat any team at any time. So I think anyone in the NFC West or the AFC West, might have a shot at going deep into the playoffs or getting into the bowl. Obviously, the Chiefs, but yeah, it's up for grabs. And then the NFC West, I think, is the best division in football. I don't even think it's a competition.
Oh, hands down, dude. Seattle, Rams, and just Arizona are all playing lights out right now. Just lights out. I think Arizona has the number one offense by far with points and everything too, and yards. They're good, man. Yeah, that's a really tough one. Even San Fran's not out of it yet at 4-6. I mean,
and they're a solid team, and a third of their team is like on IR.
Yeah, this is true.
This is true. Still like in every single game. So that tells me that there's some good coaching going on out there with Kyle Shanahan. Is that who coaches the Niners?
Yeah. If you right now, it's really funny. If you look at a lot of teams that are doing really well, they all used to work for the Washington organization, and we got rid of them, like being very, very smart, like, Dan Schneider is. But Kyle Shanahan used to be our offensive coordinator when Mike Shanahan was obviously the head coach. What's his name? Who's the head coach now for the Rams? He used to work for us too. He was an offensive coordinator. There's literally 3 head coaches right now that teams are just kicking
Sean
at.
McVay.
Yeah, Sean McVay used to work for us too. There's more. But I do like that, how everybody that used to work for us when we were like in shambles, like on the top management wise, they're like, we're fucking out of here. I'm gonna go take my skills and take another team to the playoffs.
Well, once again, it points to Dan Schneider trying to be a GM.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not the coaching that's the problem, even though he keeps getting rid of the coaches and blaming them. But the coaches obviously have good systems because they succeed everywhere else, especially when they get a chance to control player personnel. Right. And then, but if you can have all the schemes in the world, if you can't get the players to fit that scheme, then it doesn't matter. Right. Not everyone can always scheme a championship team with the players they have.
Mhm.
Oftentimes you have to build a team like the Browns. Another team that it seems like every week they get better and more accustomed to winning.
I'll tell you what, who would have saw this too? I would have never guessed. And don't get me wrong, I always thought Buffalo they've been on the uptick for the last few years where,
Yeah.
it's like the defense has been phenomenal. We just need a better, more solid offense. Who would have thought they would be right now ahead of the AFC East, and then Dolphins right behind them at 6-3, and the Pats at 4-5. Now, what's funny about the Patriots, dude, is they're slowly winning games. Like
I've noticed that.
Notice that too.
Yep.
I'm almost like, hey, pump your brakes. I know how Belichick does his shit. Like almost every single year, even with Brady, you'd be talking about the Chiefs. You'd be talking about the Ravens. You'd be talking about the Saints. Like there'd be this chatter about other teams all season, and then all of a sudden, the Patriots have fucking home field advantage in the AFC fucking playoff run. How did this happen?
Tell me if this sounds familiar. For the last half a decade, slow start for the Patriots. The conversation for half the season is how Tom Brady's finally catching up to time. How time's finally catching up to Tom Brady, right? And then all of a sudden, they're in the fucking AFC Championship game. Like
exactly. Exactly. Now, I will say this though, if and the Dolphins, man, out of nowhere, and it's actually fun to see the Dolphins doing well because they were a piss poor team for a while. I mean, them and the Jets kind of just hugging the bottom of that division, and just I don't know what happened, but Tua's in there too, so maybe that's part of it. Got a fresh new quarterback in there, even though Fitzpatrick was actually doing pretty damn good before they benched him. But let's face it,
he's 38 years old. So
well, and Fitzpatrick has this thing where he gets super streaky. Like he's either super good, lights out, or you put him in there and you're like, why did I do that? 5 interceptions. I look like Jameis Winston out there, which is interesting though. I say one thing that we were very, very accurate on as our predictions about our teams. Both of them extremely mediocre. In fact, you could even say piss poor. I never actually quite thought that the entire division would be as weak as it is right now. I thought the Eagles would be a hell of a lot better. But wow. If anybody else is an NFC East fan out there, I feel you. We're very sorry. But
I've never appreciated the New York Jets more than I do this season. They're the only thing keeping the Cowboys from being the worst team in the league.
Right? Seriously. I'll tell you what, man. Because they're winless, right? They're still winless. I want to say they're the Jets.
The Jets. Yes, they haven't won a game. Yeah. They almost beat the Bears. Almost.
0-9. Old Jets. Can you say hello first round draft pick here?
Oh yeah, it's a foregone conclusion that the Clemson kid is going to be in New York.
That's pretty intense. That is pretty intense.
I mean, he could definitely be El Salvador there in New York. I mean, imagine if you're the quarterback that comes in after the Heisman and national championships, and you go and you bring the Jets to prominence. I mean, they haven't had a solid quarterback since Vinny Testaverde.
Hey, Vinny Testicle Verdes.
Chad Pennington. Like, I mean, that's taking it back.
That's really going back. That's like early 2000s. Good.
Even then, they haven't had a quarterback with gumption and moxie there in years since like Namath. I mean, it's incredible. So I either they'll ruin the kid's career from Clemson, or they'll build around him.
Ruin his career. It's like, and the New York Jets picking their first over. He's like, they're all dragging him. He's like, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. It's a death sentence. That's hard.
Do the Eli thing and be like, no, I'm not playing for them. Nope, you better trade me. I'm not playing for them. Remember that?
I honestly think because he was supposed to go to the Chargers, and I honestly think that was a thing. Like, well, I don't want to play against my brother so many times a year or something like that. I think it had something to do with him being in a completely separate conference. I don't know why.
I don't know, but just imagine a New York Giants team that had Drew Brees for 20 years.
You know what? And they already got a couple rings with Eli too.
Right. That could have been crazy.
That literally could have turn the tide with the dynasty of the Patriots. Honestly, I think you put Drew Brees at the helm in another conference, like opposite the Patriots. I think that's the story of the
Oh, it would have
2000s.
been so money watching the Patriots and the Jets play with Drew Brees and Tom Brady every year or twice a year. You know, that'd be so awesome.
It'd be interesting stuff. Well, let me ask you this here. If you had to now knowing what we know now this season about what's going on, who do you think is going to be who do you think is going to win each division? I'm going to say this. I say the Buffalo Bills do come out on top in the the AFC East. I say that happens. I say I don't see how you're going to knock the Steelers off, but
yeah, the Steelers are the best team of football. I don't even think that's a question.
But you are probably thinking that somehow the Browns are going to finagle their way up to a wild card. I would have to say, huh?
No, I'm like almost positive the Browns are going to get that wild card spot in the AFC.
Okay. Okay.
And I think, again, the Browns are a solid team to go to. If they stay healthy, the Browns can legitimately go win a Super Bowl. I know that sounds far-fetched and crazy, but they have two dynamic running backs. They run the ball well. Running the ball well minimizes the level
look at Tennessee and Derrick Henry last year. Look how far they went.
Who's the young quarterback?
Baker Mayfield.
He's on my fantasy team. I can't remember his name. So Baker Mayfield doesn't have to try so hard when he's got the two healthy running backs and the line playing well. And then they have a really good defense with good pass rush. Good running game, good defense with good pass rush is a formula to winning a Super Bowl for decades. So I would not count the Browns out. The weakness for the Steelers, I think, is they don't have a running game. And
this is true.
Teams that don't have a running game suck in the playoffs. They run across an actual playoff defense and their season's over. Happens almost every time.
And this is why all of a sudden the conversation about a repeat by the Chiefs now is very legitimate, because now they do have a very dynamic running game. Whereas before the season, we had no idea that rookie was going to be so fucking good. And now they have
their offensive line, for that matter.
Yeah, and now they have Le'Veon Bell too, right? So you cannot say that is not gonna, that's icing on the cake. They already have all the weapons and probably the best quarterback right now for sure I would say hands down that Mahomes is probably the best quarterback out there.
That's a question.
Well, but you know who else is pretty scary too? And I didn't know if this transition was going to mean too much, but Phillip Rivers is doing a fantastic job with the Indianapolis Colts. They have a great defense too.
He's the statue of offense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just him. To compare them, he's a better version of Drew Bledsoe back in the day, right? Drew Bledsoe couldn't even move. He couldn't even dodge a sack. But he could read a defense and he could audible out players to get into the holes of the zones to get a quick release, which Phillip Rivers does. If you look at him, he holds that ball maybe 2 seconds and it's gone. He either makes the decision that the play is done and he throws it away, or he gets it out to the spot it needs to be. He's a savvy veteran and he can get the ball out fast. And that's how late 30 quarterbacks play and have sustainability in NFL, is reading defenses, changing audibles, and getting the ball out quick.
Yeah, I honestly say it's going to come down. I'd like to see the Bills way up there, but I think it's going to come down to, and I'm not going to just go off records here, but I definitely think it's going to be kind of Pittsburgh, Chiefs, maybe the Browns up in there, the Colts. That's probably going to be your AFC contenders in my mind. But you know what? Going now and looking, especially now with the loss of Drew Brees, don't get me wrong. The Saints are a great team. I've also seen a lot of holes now in the Tampa Bay defense, even though they are really good. They've been choking lately too. I wouldn't be surprised if it really comes down between this, really the entire NFC West, versus the Packers. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, mix in Green Bay, and that's the NFC contenders. That's
and
how it is.
Because it's going to come down to the wire, but whoever gets the upper hand in the NFC West is going to go against the Packers. If you ask me, I think both the Saints and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to start on a downward skid, especially as they start facing teams like Green Bay and people from the NFC West again. So that's just my thing.
And Tampa hasn't shown any signs of getting a consistent running game, and that's their biggest weakness. I think it's more not being able to control the ball with the run that's hurting their defense more than it is because they're just making Tom Brady try to do it all at like 43 years old. And he can do a lot, but to like save your team every single game, like, and you can't just have him going, 3 and out or 6 plays and then punt and then expect that defense every single time to stop. I mean, you've got to be able to move the ball, keep the clock running, control the chains with the run game. And I just don't see them doing that very well. And I don't trust a team in the playoffs that can't play good defense and run the ball. I just can't.
No, you can't. And I think Green Bay have the recipe right now to get in there and go win the Super Bowl.
And they're good.
Yeah. Honestly, it's one of those things too, where Aaron Rodgers right now for a quarterback in my mind, not maybe like physicality wise with like running the ball or anything like that, but he's literally at his prime. I think he's got enough experience where he was already fucking phenomenal anyways. You know what I mean? But he's got enough experience now. He's not too old. His reaction time hasn't really slowed down. I think just like playing the guitar or something like that, you don't necessarily get worse at playing the guitar as you get older. You get better. Yeah. Then you start depreciating at a certain point. I think he's literally primed right now to be like in his prime with accuracy, decision-making. You know what I mean? I think that's the scary part. And then you throw Aaron Jones in the mix, dude. You know what? It's just, it's nasty over there. Devontae Adams, get out of there. Whew.
Well, he's also in his prime on his dating. I mean, he's gotten Olivia Munn out of the way, Danica Patrick out of the way, and now there's a rumor of Shailene Woodley. Slow it down, A-Rod. Slow it down.
Hey, I say keep it going. Do whatever you got to do because apparently it's rubbing off in the field. You know what I mean? So keep it going, man. But yeah, no, scary stuff, man. But if I had to make some kind of prediction, I'm just going to go ahead and do it right now. Super Bowl this year. Chiefs, Green Bay.
Packers, Steelers.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. We both say the Pack is going, which is interesting.
Well,
that I think is a good one. Yeah,
I do. And I think they'll be the number one seed. And I think that because the NFC West has to play each other, they lower their overall record, whereas the Packers don't have to play shit. They have to play like everyone else. And then the NFC North twice. I mean, the Bears, the Lions, and Minnesota, because they're super terrifying, right?
Let me tell you this too. I think probably the biggest disappointment for anybody that's objective, not a favorite team or whatever, those Vikings, man. They had such a promising year last year, and they are piss poor this year.
Be careful. They're on a dramatic uptick, and they could get a wild card. And if they get a wild card, they do have a recipe to do well in the playoffs.
They do. They got Dalvin
Cook is probably the best running back in the league this year.
I will say this though, Kirk Cousins. Before did they win on Monday night, by the way? Last Monday night? I can't remember if they did or not.
I don't know. I'll look it up.
He's 0-9 going into that game on Monday Night Football. You put the pressure on Kirk Cousins, he fucking folds. And that's one thing that is very reliable about that man. I can't remember if they did it or not, but yeah, well, again, you're right, but I'm saying I honestly thought Green Bay and Minnesota would be toe-to-toe, like battling for first place at this point. And it doesn't look like that's going to be nearly happening. But, we'll see what happens, man. We shall see.
Oh, yeah, they won. They played Chicago.
Oh, well, that's literally his first Monday night win. He's 1-9 his entire career. He's never won on Monday night.
And playing Chicago is almost like playing me in fantasy. It's like a guaranteed
bye week
dub, man. Yeah. So Minnesota's 4-5 right now, but Minnesota
they need to run the table. They need to run the table for the rest of the season because Green Bay's not going to slow down too much.
They've won their last 3 out of 4 games. They've won their last 4 out of 6 games. They're definitely on the upward tick, and if they keep running the ball like this, on controlling the clock, they can definitely win, especially in a weak division like that, and try to get a wild card. But their back's against the wall, and they're going to have to play pretty much playoff football the rest of the season.
They're going to have to run the table, and God forbid, if something happens to Dalvin Cook, that's gone because Kirk Cousins' power as a quarterback is completely diminished if he doesn't have a good running game. And that's true with every quarterback, but very, very true with that team. So interesting to see. All right, well, you heard it here, folks. It's going to be the Packers versus the Steelers in Bob's world, and in my world, it's going to be the Chiefs trying to go for a repeat with the Pack as their adversaries. So we'll see what happens. Very
Either way, I'm into seeing all of those games.
Oh yeah, me too. 100%. And so far, knock on wood, we've had some rescheduled games. We've had some push games, but one thing that we were very worried about is fucking COVID has not destroyed football this year. And God bless America. America.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. Actually, my desk is particle board, so I don't know if that's going to come back and bite me in the ass or something like that.
So is mine, but it's got a nice wood laminate on it, so we're okay.
Okay.
It looks like wood.
Yeah,
That's what she said.
So she's like, it looks like wood, but it doesn't feel like wood.
Right. It's very, very deceiving.
It's like, why is that big vein there, but it's all soft and I actually painted that on. That's a temporary tattoo I did.
A tattoo. It's okay. I got veins tattooed on my hardware.
Yeah, it's so I always look like I'm raging when I'm not. You know what I mean? It's just that kind of persona I want to carry. Well, hey, switching gears, let's get into the positive light at the end of the tunnel here. Everybody's really bitching about these new restrictions and lockdowns again, kind of rolling things back with what's open. I'm not saying I'm okay with it. I'm done with it. I'm sick of it. I think you are too. But guys, there is light at the end of the tunnel now. Bob, tell us a little bit more about what's going on in the pharmaceutical world. It's exciting.
There are now 3, maybe even 4 viable vaccines right now that are over 90% efficacy. All right. So we got obviously Pfizer came out with the first one. They said it was 90%. Well, they refined their results after a few more people got COVID and put up to like 95%. So the way that all worked in their stage 3 is so that people can kind of understand, because there's a lot of politics, conspiracy theories involved in all this bullshit, which it's really much simpler than all that. So they do their first 2 phases of their trials, right? And they get to their 3rd phase of the trials. Well, it's unethical to just go give people a fucking COVID, right? You can't just go kill people. We're not Nazis.
Out of context, that sounds really horrible, but it will make sense later in the show.
So we don't kill people to go like advance medical things in America, right? So, or in the world. So how they do it is they give double blind, right? So they give half of the people the vaccine, they give the other people shots of placebo, so no one knows who has the vaccine or who doesn't, and they just kind of let them live life. And as these people get COVID, because they vaccinate and placebo thousands and thousands of people, but they're really looking at a certain number, and I think that number was around 100 to start reporting results. So they had to wait for life to play out and for these 100 people to actually get COVID, so they could see of the people that had the vaccine versus the placebo, how many actually didn't get COVID that were exposed to it and had to go get tested and all this, right? So that's kind of how they had to get these results over time. So that's what took so long. So then Pfizer came out with that. Then Moderna came out with that. And now I think that the AstraZeneca, the Oxford one.
Yeah, that's the one based in England, right? Yeah.
Right. They had to pause for a while because they had an unexplained weird
flipper babies
thing,
growing other heads, stuff like
they
that.
Paused their shit for a while, but then they resumed it and found out it was just an anomaly and it wasn't part of their shit, right? So then they resumed it for a while. Well, now they're actually at a reportable number, and they're doing really well too. So now there's several vaccines, and they're all using messenger RNA. So again, to kind of explain that is you inject RNA into your body so that your cells know, hey, we should make this protein. That protein is actually the protein that the coronavirus uses to latch onto our human cells. So it's synthesizing that protein. Those little dots on the outside of that red looking cell of the coronavirus, those dots are that protein. Right.
It's a very ominous picture of a virus. It always looks like a little weird tentacled alien or some shit like that. But yeah, and essentially we're getting injected with dead coronavirus.
No. That's a traditional vaccine. So we're getting injected with RNA, right? Which is basically instructions into the cell, right? That creates that protein that's actually on the coronavirus, but without the rest of the coronavirus, just the protein that the coronavirus uses. And then our antibodies say, hey, what the fuck is this protein? We should probably send some antibodies out to house this shit real quick. And the antibodies come out. Well, then now we've created antibodies against the attaching protein on the coronavirus. So if the coronavirus does come, we already have those antibodies made.
And our body recognizes it, and we have the proper antibodies
same result,
put it on the kibosh.
Different way to do it so that we didn't have to inject everyone with coronavirus, I would imagine.
So it's interesting. It sounds like these 3 companies all are doing, and I'm just going to translate it to something else that's very layman, but they all have like a recipe for cola. that's all quite similar. One's just Pepsi, one's just Coke, and one's just RC, right? Essentially.
Yeah, hopefully none are Tab because they went out.
You know, if one was Tab, then it would have to be like a lamer version of the Coca-Cola one because Coca-Cola owns Tab. So, yeah, let's hope it's not. I'm not taking the Tab vaccine. There's no.
I want the Dr. Pepper flavor of one because that's my favorite. I need some prune juice up in my cola.
But yeah, yeah. All kidding aside, though, this is exciting shit because you already know this too, that literally they have filed for emergency use, right, and distribution of the vaccine. At least Pfizer has for sure, and it looks like now within the next couple of few weeks, definitely before the end of this calendar year, we could have all kinds of military and all kinds of very high risk elderly people, mainly at nursing homes and the like, that could get distributed the vaccine before the end of the year, at least their first shot, and then have their booster shot probably right in the new year or something like that. That's really fucking exciting. It's at least going to be around 20 million people in this first round that could potentially have antibodies against the coronavirus before the year is over.
Right. And if we could get them out to obviously the military, because they're going to be distributing the vaccine. So military first, frontline workers, doctors, nurses, all of that, they'll get it. And then the elderly.
And then Joe Biden and Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, and everybody in the Senate will probably get it first too because of their age, which is nice.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of the Senate, Senator Grassley got COVID. I haven't heard. How's that guy doing? I mean, he's like older than dirt.
I don't know. Where's he from?
I think he's from Iowa.
Okay, because I do know
he's the one that's 87 years old. He was the Senate Judiciary Chair, and he's the one that gave it to Lindsey Graham because he's just kind of getting too old. Right?
He was the Senate Judiciary Chair during the Truman administration.
During
right?
Kavanaugh. so when Kavanaugh was getting confirmed, the guy that was running that Senate committee, that's Grassley, that old man.
Right? Well, see, there was a senator in Montana that was actually, did you see that? He actually was one of the participants in the trials with Pfizer, and he got tested recently, and he was positive for the antibodies. So that was very cool. I just saw that recently, and he was an elderly guy. I was like, you know what? I've always had this thing. I mean, you got to have some big balls to be like a volunteer for vaccine trials. If you ask me, just, call me crazy. But
I mean, obviously he's a patriot. I mean, country first, right? Even
America.
whatever we can do to help. I mean, if someone approached you or I and were like, hey, you could help the country. Can you help us out? I mean, I'm going to be leaning towards probably. So
I love your conviction there. It's like, can you help us out? Come on, do it for your country. Well, maybe I'll call you. I'll have my people call your people. Don't worry about it. I'll get back.
We'll set up a discussion. But I mean, more than likely, the answer is going to be yes.
Sure.
Our country has its problems, but I mean, it's still being better. It's better to be born here than it is to be born in like Syria. So,
yeah, sure.
We got that going for us. USA better than Syria. Whatever it is, though, the stock markets are loving.
We got more food than more food than Ethiopia. Come on down.
We got less civil war than fucking Rwanda.
Oh, Jesus. Too soon. Oh my God. What were you saying though? You were saying something else.
So the market has been loving the news though, because I don't know about you and your investments, but the markets have been pretty much on a steady trajectory lately. The last few days of this week, it's been slowing down, but we'd probably call that a correction from the surge of the last couple of weeks.
Sure.
But overall, this is encouraging news for everyone. I mean, just 90% effectiveness. Once the whole country gets it, hospitalizations are down to 10%.
Well, let's just call it what it is. It's 95 now, because if we have to pick out of 3 right now, here's what I love about competition, and this is honestly one of the best examples, getting away from my political stances and everything. This is a really great example of the free market and government working together harmoniously for the right thing and for the right end goal, and they're actually doing a good job. You see, this can happen. Doesn't happen much, but goddamn, it's happening right now, and I'm loving it.
You goddamn socialist.
I never thought you'd say that to me. But
I just had to beat, Parler. I just had to get there first.
And you know what? You said it, and you got 100 million likes. You got people right on, brother. Like even like people that look like Hulk Hogan are like giving you a thumbs up, which is great. But here's the other thing I wanted to say about all of this is, and we talked about it a little bit already. I get so frustrated with people right now with this second round of we're not going to really call them lockdowns. This is call it what it is. We are like prison style sex. We are right now hunkering down, biting that pillow because we know that he's almost done. He's almost about to finish, meaning the big guy on my back. You know what I mean?
Or that we're up for parole soon. Like
it's like I only gotta deal with this for a couple more weeks, and then I'm gonna be, But seriously, there was light at the end of the tunnel. So what really makes me upset, and it just shows again how selfish people are, how self-centered people are at the end of the day. It's like, you're taking my fucking freedoms away, man. Hey, fuck all this lockdown bullshit. The governor's a piece of shit. Just open up, man. I can't be snuffed out and stifled by your fucking bullshit anymore, you socialist piece of shit. Hey, you know what, dude? Shut the fuck up. Man up. Again, bite that fucking pillow. We're almost at the end of the road here. You know what I mean? I'm at this point right now where I'm more willing and able to follow along and be a productive member of society right now for the greater good, because I can see the end of the line. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can see the fucking rainbow. You know I love rainbows.
You can see a cruise coming. A long overdue cruise. It's coming.
I had to cancel 2 in 2020. Come on, 2021. I am hitting up that 10-day cruise. But no, it blows my mind where there's all this positivity and all this great news about finally getting back to some kind of slice of normalcy. And there's people that are uproaring even more than back in April and May and June about the lockdowns and shit like that. Dude, just let's move on, get over it, quit being a little bitch. Thank you. The slow 80s clap. He's like, woo! Yeah. I don't know, man. I bet it just feels good. It feels good to get that kind of validation. I need to get on Parler real quick and say something about black people. Hold on a second.
Oh, don't stop there. There's plenty of more ethnicities that you could single out of Parler.
Asians are taking all of our engineering jobs. Yeah. Oh, look, millions of likes. I feel great. Now, anyways, I digress here. I don't know about you. How you doing on coffee?
Oh, I've been out of coffee for like half an hour. I've just been waiting to get to the point where we can go make our drink.
Well, guess what?
We're at that point.
Wait no longer, my friend. We're here.
Oh, that's fantastic. Let's go get one.
Okay.
Cheers, Scotty.
Oh, cheers all the way. Cheers to your tits.
Cheers for fears.
Oh, it's a great band.
Cheers for beers.
Recline that thing all the way back. Pour yourself a nice little bottle of bubbly.
Hey, everybody.
Everything all right over there? I missed a call from Jess.
Oh, yeah. I was just calling to see if you're going to do the shot glass version or if you're going to put it in a cocktail and double up.
I went ahead and just did the shot glass, but added some ice. Look at you. I made 2.
Can you see my blue balls in there?
I like it. I really do like it. Here, let's get a little money shot. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my. Sorry. Here.
Yep. Oh, there we are.
my headset started beeping, so I'm gonna have to change out. So I'll try to do that while we
get situated.
Talking about stuff,
Well, I will tell you, Bob, this, my friend, and I'm not sure if you got a chance to indulge yesterday.
I did not. This is my first one.
Now, if you made the proportions correctly, it is so good. Now, I want us both to take a quick taste first, and then I want to kind of give you my take on what this dramatically is familiar to and way of taste. So, whenever you have a quick minute here. And as he's getting situated, there he goes. He's got headset on. He looks good.
Oh, I'm good to go, baby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, baby. All right. Now, give this a little sippy. Now, for everybody out there, again, what we are indulging in today is blue balls.
That's good.
Now, picture this. Do you remember the freeze pops when you would let them thaw out?
Otter pops, yeah.
Dude, this tastes like the blue raspberry freeze pop to a T. Like I had one of these yesterday. I was like, holy shit, this is way too tasty. And I gave some to Jamie. She's like, it literally tastes like a freeze pop. I was like, yeah, it tastes like a straight up otter pop, like the blue raspberry version.
And it's like almost all booze.
it's so good. But you know what? It's not super strong booze because it's coconut rum, blue curacao, and peach schnapps. So they're both like 30 proof. And then I think the coconut rum's the strongest. So it's not over the top, but god damn, is this dangerous.
If you got tanked on these things, you'd like be feeling it the next day.
Oh, 100%. But probably, and I will say this, out of all the cocktails we've made, and we've at least made around 40 or so different cocktails on the show, this one might be the tastiest, like literally the tastiest.
Yeah, it's really delicious.
Yeah, Stiffies, get out there, get yourself a nice case of Blue Balls, not like almost climaxing and then being denied, but more like, again, if you'd like the blue raspberry, is it blue raspberry? I want to say it's blue raspberry, the Otter Pop flavor.
Yeah, blue raspberry, coconut, something.
It's blue. It's just, it tastes like blue.
It tastes like blue.
It tastes like blue, and blue is fucking delicious.
Well, it tastes like 80s blue. Right?
It's so much better than 90s or 2000s blue.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, good.
Get the 80s blue in there. So
now,
yeah, pretty awesome.
I did want to ask you something real quick, and please enjoy your Blue Balls. And I don't think I've ever said that to anybody without being very like mean to them. Is Blue Balls, I was thinking about this yesterday. Is Blue Balls like a young man's game? Like, when's the last time you've actually gotten Blue Balls? It's been a long, long time for me. And I just,
it has to be, right? Well, I don't know. I mean,
because if we
live a different life.
and if we were in danger of getting Blue Balls, we can literally by law get rid of them very quickly.
Well, and it's just like there's never that like leave you hanging moment very much, because you always kind of know. Will you put the kids to bed early tonight? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you already know what's gonna go down. There's no
really you've kind of like got rid of that margin of error, so to speak, right? You know what I mean? And you schedule things out a little bit more, like you're saying. But I did think about that. Yeah, it's like, you know what? This has got to be a young man's, on a whole, it's got to be a young man's problem. Now, don't get me wrong, not a laughing matter. Not a laughing matter at all. It hurts. It can hurt really bad.
Well,
but again,
I will say this, that as you get older, there is no half-assing it like there was. Like when you're younger, one of you might puss out at some point or whatever, right? But when you're older, when you get to that point, when you're older, oh, it's going down. It's like neither one of you are going to back out at that point. You know what I mean? Like you would when you're in your late teens, early 20s.
Or maybe you didn't tie the ropes correctly and she wiggles out and starts to get free. You know what I mean? You never know what's going to happen.
Or maybe you have to stop to like redo the duct tape and someone comes.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden you've got, Publishers Clearinghouse at the door, fucking throws you off your game a little bit. She runs and jumps out of the window. Fun time over. And then you're left with a case of aching.
Or simply you forgot to child lock the fucking door in the van.
Yeah. We're not saying that jokes about rape are fun, but here we are laughing and it is a little bit fun.
God, we're assholes.
We're horrible people. We're really horrible people. I need to go talk about this on Parler real quick. I feel better.
I'm new to Parler. Where do I get the rope and duct tape? Can one of you like reprogram the GPS on my cell phone? I just wanted to know because I'm just trying to take precautionary measures.
Hey, everybody starts chiming. Get out of here, rookie.
Get out of here, rookie. Why do you not have your cell phone at home when you're using a drop phone? Come on,
let's go. Amateur hour over here. Oh, well, Bob, good conversation today that we get to jump into. I don't know about you, but I'm not even going to be around the bush here. I do have a fascination with Nazi Germany. I just do. And it's a couple of different things. I've told the Stiffies before, I'm a hardcore buff in like serial killers and true crime and that kind of macabre weird stuff. Nazi Germany to me is so interesting. And Jamie laughs at me because every time there's a World War II documentary, God forbid, if it's
all over it.
Yeah. And if it's about the Asian Pacific, I could care two shits. Like I was like, yeah, we bombed the country. They gave up. Yeah, I get it. Okay. A lot of people, kamikaze pilots. But when they hone in on Europe, dude, and just the epitome and the pinnacle of true fucking evil and evil agenda, I can't even imagine or fathom that this actually happened. And that's why I'm so drawn to it. I was like, how could something so catastrophically, horribly evil actually take place and almost get to the point where they literally almost took over the entire world? Like
in modern times.
In modern times, in times of vehicles and at least radio communication and other things that you would think would be able to keep this at bay. But man, they almost did it, and scary, scary stuff to realize that this was real. And we were almost at a point like we were talking about before the show. And I know people have said it before. We couple of slip moves here and there by the Allies, or a couple of better moves by Hitler near the end of the war when he was kind of going batshit crazy. We could all be speaking German right now.
Even if he hadn't have invaded Poland in 39 and waited a year or two to start that campaign,
Yeah,
we might all be speaking German.
Yeah,
it's like that close.
Mm-hmm. So
very,
yeah,
very crazy.
The Nazis in general have always just fascinated me. It's one of those things where it's just like, wow, I can't believe this actually really happened. And it's interesting too, because I think the point of what we're going to talk about today is they were not only some pretty hardcore evil sons of bitches. No doubt. Nobody's going to argue that. And if you do, please stop listening to the show. But man, extremely ambitious people as well. I mean, they were making some moves. They had some things going, and that's really, I think, what brought it to your attention. And correct me if I'm wrong, but during our little research on the lost city of Atlantis for last week's show, again, you realize, oh, look at that. The Nazis had an expedition to find Atlantis because they believed that, they were the lost Aryan, ancient, super advanced civilization, and that would validate their entire, the Aryans or the superior racing kind of shit. But they had their hands in a lot of shit, a lot of explorations, a lot of inventions, a lot of experimentation. Now, granted, again, like we talked about, almost everything they did, the root motivation and root cause of all these things, again, the epicenter of pure evil. However, you remove that motivation and still have the output that they did, or the experimentation or the research, man, these guys really, really were at the top of their game from an aspect of, dare I say, advancement of the modern society.
Oh, there's a lot of things that we owe to them, even now. I think as far as like the Nazi temperament, not to get too nerdy about it, but there's a line in Harry Potter when
you just got really nerdy. You got really, really nerdy. We're
when
talking about Nazis. You start talking about Harry Potter. I love
the
it.
headmaster of Hogwarts. I forget his name off the top of my head.
Dumbledore.
Well, so he's actually talking about.
As I correct you about Dumbledore's name.
Yes, because I'm the nerdy one. So as he's talking about Voldemort, he explains to Harry, that Voldemort was a great wizard. He did terrible things, but was terrible great things, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the Nazis, right? They did terrible things, but they did great things. They were just terrible things, right?
Yeah.
But so the reason this all came up, and you're 100%. Last week we started talking about Atlantis, and it got the juice flowing. We talked about the Nazis were even looking for Atlantis, and this is like, the Nazis were looking for a lot of shit. I mean, we watch Indiana Jones, and you're like, oh, it's always the Nazis. It's always the Nazis because that shit was true. The Nazis were looking for the Holy Grail. The Nazis were looking for the lost Ark of the Covenant. The Nazis were looking for these things. So that they were looking for anything that held spiritual power, to have leverage. They were looking for anything that was put them at a metaphysical level above the rest of humanity.
Let's not forget either the spear of destiny, the spear that stabbed Jesus when he was on the cross being crucified. That's something else they were looking for too. They had this fascination with relics because you could use them for propaganda. If you think about it, right? If they had all these things, it validates again the German race being superior. And but go ahead, please. I don't want to interrupt you too much.
Yeah, and not that Germans were superior, but I will say this. Their civilization was superior. They were technologically advanced compared to the rest of the world. They just were.
Hey, stay on eggshells with what you say. Okay.
they were just they were severely outnumbered, right?
Yeah.
And so they lost their war. And honestly, Russia won the war. I mean, Russia lost millions, throwing them at the superior, technology of the Nazis. They just lost millions, and they bombarded them with human resources, and just kept coming and coming and coming until they finally won. I mean, we lost, not to minimize it, but a few 100,000 compared to the millions that Russia lost. In fact, Russians are sore about our outlook that we won the war, because in their eyes, we were just in the war. They won the war. And there's some truth to that.
You know what's crazy too is, with the Nazis that just kept coming and coming and coming. If Russia at that point in time didn't have Mother Nature on their side in that brutal fucking winter when Hitler just kept sending troops in there, that might have had a different outcome too. You know what I mean? If it was summertime during that invasion, like that invasion kind of just process,
It probably would have worked.
yeah, you know what I mean? So
Again,
thank God they had Mother Nature on their side.
If Hitler started 6 months to a year later than he did, we might all be speaking German right now. So, I mean, not just beyond all of their spiritual things that they're looking for. So, I mean, you had touched on it a little bit. For those that don't know, Heinrich Himmler was like one of Hitler's right-hand mans, right? He ran the SS, which was...
Can we say this? He's probably more... I would say he's a bigger piece of shit and an eviler piece of shit than Hitler himself. I will just go ahead and say that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Heinrich Himmler was like the evil behind the man, right?
Yeah,
he was the guy that did all the dirt and wouldn't tell Hitler about what all he was doing because he was getting results, and that's what Hitler cared about.
Yep.
And there was some plausible deniability left between him and Hitler, so that Hitler didn't really know what was going on. But Heinrich Himmler was he was really into theism, right? He was really into gods. He grew up of Germanic descent, where his father still believed in fucking Odin and Thor and shit. I mean, he believed he was a polytheist. He didn't believe in Christianity at all.
Oh, he hated Christianity. He was quoted saying that he believes Christianity made men weaker, right? With actually being wholesome and forgiving. That did not line up with the very sick kind of Nazi attitude, right? And like the take no prisoners kind of advancement at all costs kind of thing. Yeah, no, it was the polar opposite of what he wanted for the German people.
Yeah, and which is like amazing for the rest of the world that Germany was defeated, because with that attitude, it wouldn't have stopped at Jews. It would have gone right on into Catholics and Christians in general, and the massacres would have just kept going.
Oh yeah,
our way or death. Then that's just how it's going to be. So I mean, in fact, he created this organization called, I'm going to butcher this name, but the Ahnenerbe.
Yeah, Ahnenerbe sounds
probably
about
got
right.
in there or something. It's the Ahnenerbe, or
right.
those crazy spitting Germans. But so this was basically Heinrich Himmler, Hermann Wirth, Richard Darr. They were out looking for Atlantis. They were out looking for all the religious relics. They were out looking for Thor's hammer, and you had mentioned before the show, literally looking for fucking Thor's hammer.
And to give people a little bit of context here of like why was he doing all this? And you mentioned it a little bit too. He was obsessed with making the connection to make the German superior race, the Aryans, not a myth, right? He was obsessed with making the connection in the ancient world with an ancient Germanic people. And that way he could give validation to all the bullshit propaganda and myths that he was telling all of the SS and the rest of the German people, that they were far superior than all these other inferior races and religions, right? So his big thing by forming this department essentially of the Nazi government was to make sure that they could find at least some type of validation that the Germanic people are tied to an ancient, very advanced civilization. And that's why they did all this exploration, right? Why go to Tibet? And why go to try to find the lost city of Atlantis? Why try to find, again, the Spear of Destiny or the Holy Grail and all this stuff? It was to give that validation that Germanic people had a very pivotal role in the ancient world. And not only were there, but they were on top of it, right? They wanted to be they wanted to build this myth that the Germanic people were even far more advanced than the ancient Romans and ancient Greeks. This is why they did it.
If you could tie the facts and some of these historical data, if you could tie that together with the propaganda, then it ceases to be propaganda, right?
And it becomes reality.
Yeah, his mission on conquering the world, if he could tie that together, then he could win not only militarily but also culturally, because then he could actually show proof. So he was always in search of that proof, I
heard something that was really great. I just thought it was a great takeaway. I was watching one of the docs about this yesterday. It's something that he did very, very well. Was basically I love the term. He abused anthropology to his advantage, right? So, and that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to find and go point out things and connect it to the Germanic people. So instead of just being, again, like we know they were, the Germanic people were living in huts. They were savages, for lack of a better term, compared to the far advanced ancient civilizations of the Roman Empire, the
Right.
Greeks, and so on and so forth. So interesting stuff, man. But yeah, it's crazy. This motivation to validate racial superiority is why they did all this. Some of it, some great advancement, and ultimately was their demise too, like we talked about earlier. But Bob, chime us in on some of the things that these advanced members of this elite department, which is called what again?
Oh, let's see.
Come on, one more time.
The Honor Nerby.
Honor-
Honor Nerby.
Honorby.
Honor
Sure.
Nerb.
Yeah. Tell us about a little bit more. Tell us what they did.
Well, I mean, that's kind of it. I mean, they were out looking for the mythical thing, you know, to prove that they were a godlike advanced race from the past.
Sure.
And to win culturally as they conquer the world. That was it. Because obviously, if you could then go have physical artifacts in your hands to show people when you conquer them, you'd have a lot easier time explaining your theology to them, right? Your point of view, and it'd be much harder to refute. So I think that, you know, culturally, that was a huge thing in their grand plan to literally rule the world. They were not just ambitious though in, you know, in looking for ancient relics or looking for lack of a better word, fucking magic items. All right.
Yeah. They essentially very, very supernatural, very supernatural based a lot of his motivation too.
They were also like the reason I kind of go back to like they're far more advanced civilization than most of the rest of the world at that point is because they just were. So after the war had ended on its, you know, final months, Hitler was already gone. You know, they were sending teams through, scientific teams, and searching for things because they would have these research labs buried into like the Swiss Alps, and then they had already dynamited the cave entrances shut, so they could be hard to find. So they're really hard to find these things. Think of it as a larger, more industrial network, kind of like the Vietnam foxhole mines that the Vietnamese had against us in Vietnam. So they're like that, but on a larger scale. And they were building these fantastical things, right? So we all know about the VX rockets, huge things, and they were ICBMs. But they could only go a few hundred miles. But they were sending them with minimal guidance, and they were just bombing England with these first jet propelled fucking rockets, right? Ballistic missiles. That's not the only ballistic missiles that they had in the pipe. They had over 130 different types. One of them, a couple of them were really, really dangerous, and they were just in the early stages of mass producing, right? So they found that they had these ICBMs, these intercontinental ballistic missiles that were supersonic and could go faster than the speed of sound. That's what that means, in case you guys didn't know that.
I thought they were just a has-been professional basketball team. Sean Kemp used to be the king of. I don't know.
So they could send these, but the first ones went like, 1,500 miles an hour, which the speed of sound's about 1,200 miles an hour, right? So you send in this thing, you don't ever hear the sound until it's actually exploded on you. Right. So that's like incredibly dangerous because at the time there was like minimal radar. Nothing would have caught this thing going this fast. Right. And it was actually like shot into the orbit of Earth the way that ICBMs are. Right. So they could even bomb America. So they found one that went 6,000 miles an hour, 5,800 miles an hour. So that's like Mach 3, right? 3 times the speed of sound, like super fast. And could travel 3,500 miles. So it could easily go and hit New York. And their plan with these was to just destroy cities. And they had different ways. They weren't like the VX rockets. They were actually controlling these with radio signals, light waves, IR, infrared. They had all these controlling technologies that they were already working on and controlling them. So if they would have been like 6 months, is the thing I was talking about earlier, 6 months later, these ICBMs that could go 3,500 miles would not only be in mass production, but also be able to be controlled and targeted while in flight. The Nazis were already there with that. So that would have ended the war I mean,
Yep.
atomic bombs aside, it doesn't matter if there's no New York. Doesn't matter, you know what I mean?
Well,
So
I mean, along with the military type and the weaponry too. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I know it's a little bit older than maybe what you're talking about, but even like the German U-boats were far superior than our submarines, and we had to like come up with counter intelligence just to handle them. I mean, they always ruled the sea too, and that was even goes back to World War I, doesn't it?
yeah, their U-boats have dominated the sea for decades at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
So beyond the missiles and beyond the capability of that, they had already, because of the VX, and they already had jet engines. They were already starting in mass production of fighter jets, so that if they would have gotten thousands of those out, also would have ended the war, right, in their favor, because we were running on piston engines, going slow, and they're jetting around, right? Which this is all fascinating, and I'll get to it, circle back with the Foo Fighters a little bit, but there's these other technologies that I don't think a lot of people associate with it. So while everyone was working on record players and like phonographs and shit like that, the Nazis had already invented tapes and tape decks, magnetic tape strips, and could hold and erase and move like massive informations and recordings. They were already in production. They were already using them in their army, in the military. So they had tapes that they found. They invented.
Hey, fun little tidbit while you think about that too, but Adolf Hitler is credited actually for making the first summer mixtape for Ava Braun.
He's like, come check this out. I got the tape for you.
It's called "Kill All the Jews and I Love You."
I got the tape, and it's called "Kill All the Jews." I got the tape. You will love the tape.
Sorry, I heard cassette tape, and I just went with it. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
So, they invented night vision, and we're actually already using night vision. Along with the night vision, because the night vision apparatus used a lot of power. They invented a micro generator that produced 15,000 watts of electricity from a flashlight size apparatus. So it would be a flashlight battery going into this little micro condenser that then could spin this little going back to Tesla, could spin this little electric motor like 15,000 RPMs or something outrageous, right? And these guys would wear it on their back, and they were using them for snipers. They had them fixed onto airplanes, so they were able to shoot and bomb at night with clear vision. They were using them on their tanks, so that they could have tank warfare at night when no one could see, and no one knew that they even had this, right? When they were actually fighting and people were getting sniped at night. It's because I'm just going to shoot the red dot, the red figure I see walking around. And so they found that out. These guys were doing medical research, which you all know, Joseph Mengele, the twin experiments.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
We talked about that.
Genetic experiments, yeah.
They had also gotten Jews and were obviously experimenting on them, right? They had frozen some to death.
Oh, yeah.
Then brought them back to life.
Do you know, and again, all rooted in kind of some weird kind of motivation, but the reason that they did the bomb research experiments on the Jews, the reason that they did the survival experiments, like freezing them, is so they could understand how they could put their soldiers into the harsh winter of the Soviet Union at that time to beat the Russians. So again, all motivated for, selfishly, but hey, they did a lot of testing and figured out a lot of things. Hey, if we freeze this person, if we melt this person's skin off, how long can they live? How long can they, it's very interesting.
Well, I have one more thing, but I've been talking long enough.
You're okay. You're okay. I'll tell you one thing. I'll kind of switch gears a little bit here because we're wartime in it. We're talking about a lot of weird things. Something else I mentioned to you is they are also credited almost, goddamn, if the war didn't break out when it did, they were in the middle of building the biggest resort. That's right, everybody. The resort on the Balkan Sea off the coast of Germany right before the war broke out. So I want to say 1934 to up to 1938-ish. They were building like a 6-mile stretch of these super posh just resort kind of buildings or what have you, right on the water and everything. And that would have been if they would have finished construction of the largest resort in the known world by far, 6 miles long on the coast of the Baltic Sea. And just so you know, they did eventually restore it, and now they're luxury apartments that sick fuckers live in. But
of course they are.
Yeah, so there's that too. It's called
when does yours close?
Seriously, right? But that was pretty impressive too. So yeah, beyond that, again, like, and this goes back again to like the death camps and everything too. But even archaeological research on how to categorize people by different races by the size of their bones was another crazy experiment they were going through. I told you about the Jewish skeleton collection that they did. It was one of the last kind of things that they tried to do in the death camps, is to figure out, okay, we should be able to measure the head, the ears, the width of the whatever, right? The forehead and everything, and be like, oh, that person's Jewish, that person's not Jewish, that person's Aryan or whatever. And the way they were going to do this is to collect 150 Jewish prisoners at that time and kill them all, and then basically strip them down to just bone. I'm sure they did that by boiling their bodies after they were killed or whatnot, but they only got about halfway done before the Allies kind of broke through and caused them to redirect their energy.
Am I the only one that like sees the irony in the fact that they couldn't tell who this group of people were by, looking at them, talking to them, that they had to like resort to all these finer methodologies of trying to figure out if they were Jewish or not? Is it me, or is that odd? Because Jewish is, a religion, so technically, like, anyone could be Jewish.
This is very true. Now, from my understanding, too, being Jewish is also ethnically, racially rooted as well. Like being like an Israelite or something like that. Again, I don't know, but they were quoted saying too, which I chuckled out yesterday. It's like the elusive Jew, like they couldn't figure out who was Jew or not. And I'm like, well, yeah. So you might as well put all your time.
Are you Jewish? Why do you ask? Well, I was just trying to figure out if I should murder you or not. I can't tell. So if you could be more forthcoming, that would really help my decision.
When the guy's like, well, with that being said, no, I'm not. You're very elusive, you Jew. Elusive.
For real. I just think that's odd that they're going
after this whole
sect of people.
Got to keep my eye on you.
Right?
Jesus Christ.
And it's true, though. They had like the Jew Hunter, which we've kind of all seen elaborated more with Inglourious Bastards, all right? Christopher Waltz plays this like great fucking actor, Jew Hunter guy. But that's actually based off of a true character. And one of them, of course, was Heinrich Himmler's homies.
Of course.
Right, of course.
Why
Heinrich Himmler was like the living version of Satan. I mean, that was Heinrich Himmler.
He was a big piece of shit. I'll tell you what he wasn't. He wasn't one of these delicious blue balls. I swear to God, just a sidebar here. I feel like I'm running through the sprinklers and I'm 6 years old and I'm having otter pops and I'm just having a good time right now.
Oh, yeah. I should have made 2. And I doubled up on the recipe because it was like a shot. And I was like, no. This can't just be a shot. I'm going to make a glass.
God.
It's fantastic, right? Stiffies, get in there. Come get your blue balls.
And he means that too. And in the most genuine way.
So several episodes back, we were talking about the Philadelphia experiment, right? We're talking about the U.S. government and the 40s doing experiments of space-time, and allegedly a ship disappearing, but
cloaking, stuff like that.
Guys getting like brought back from wherever the fuck, and they were like interwoven into the hull of the ship and shit because shit didn't work quite right.
They got scrambled,
molecular level.
Yeah.
So there's all that. Well, that all stems from the German side of that. So the Germans are working on, if you can see this guy behind me, right? So that's a bell, which I ever so graciously, rubbed off the little Nazi symbol as to not be too offensive there. But this is called the bell, right? Die Glock. So I guess Glock means bell.
It sounds a hell of a lot cooler, and I don't like to give him a lot of credit, but it sounds a hell of a lot cooler than the Liberty Bell with a big crack in it.
Right. So this thing was about 9 feet wide.
No, it was 9.
This thing was about 9, actually 2.7 meters. It's German. So, and it was 12 to 15 feet high. Right. So huge bell made of huge, heavy metal, and they had this thing working outside of, well, here, let me just read a little bit about the bell.
Come on, baby. Come on. Story time, baby. Come on. Hit me with it.
Die Glock is described as being a device made out of a hard, heavy metal, approximately 2.7 meters, 9 feet, and 3.7 to 4.6 meters, 12 to 15 feet high, having a shape similar to a large bell, according to an interview of Polish author Igor Witkowski This device ostensibly contained two counter-rotating cylinders, which would be filled with mercury-like substance, violet in color. Quote.
Oh, beautiful.
So the metallic liquid was codenamed Zerum 525 and was stored in a tall, thin thermos flask a meter high encased in lead.
Jesus
Additional
Christ.
substances said to be employed in the experiments, referred to as light metal, included thorium and beryllium peroxides.
So is light metal kind of like Nickelback?
Yes. So the device required very large amounts of electricity fed via thick cabling from a nearby power plant. Witkowski describes Die Glock when activated as having an effect zone extending of 150 to 200 meters. So, a couple of football fields, right? Within the zone, crystals would form in animal tissue. Blood would gel and separate while plants would decompose into a grease-like substance. Witkowski also said that 5 of the 7 original scientists working on the project died in the course of the tests. Also, fun fact, they had like dozens of scientists working on this. And as the Allies were closing in, they moved Die Glock out of that facility and it's never been found. They took it somewhere else. And then our homie Heinrich Himmler's back, right? He goes there during this operation, takes all the scientists out back and executes them all so that they won't talk. And then that's how the Die Glock dies. And they take it elsewhere. It's never to be found again. The experiment's never to be repeated. Not a lot of information is on it other than just these few testimonials that were scraped up over the last 100 years. How crazy, right? So they were doing experiments over space-time bending and time travel. That's the essence of the Die Glock experiment. It was classified as, let's see, what did they call it? Kriegsschneidstund.
9,
Which meant decisive for the outcome of the war, the highest known category of secrecy and funding priority known in the Third Reich. So very, very big project, very huge, so much that Heinrich Himmler went down in person to decommission this and execute every known person that was working at that facility.
I'll tell you this, man. It's and I'm just, this guy again, evilest son of a bitch in modern history, if you ask me, right? And what's really ironically, I guess not so ironic, I guess it makes sense that he was caught by the British, you know that, right? And he took his own life, with cyanide, whatever he had, just kind of copped out. I can't believe that they let him do that. You know what I mean? When they got him as a prisoner of war, they just put him in a bunker and say, here, you just stay here and don't do anything to yourself. Don't you go dying on me. I'll be back.
Well, a lot of those operatives had fake teeth that they could just press really hard and kill themselves with. They had cyanide.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, because he did not get his day in court. That's for damn sure. You know what I mean? It's too bad.
No, he would have been firing squad, I think is how they executed most of those guys from the Nuremberg trials.
That's too nice, dude. That's too humane, if you ask me. I would start with pulling off the fingernails and the toenails individually, and then
what about the quartering? Go old school.
See, that ends too quickly, though, doesn't it? I mean, we want to
doesn't have to.
You stop halfway through. It's starting to rip like on every side. You're like, okay, now pause.
We're gonna take a lunch break here. We're gonna take a little bit of recess. We'll be back in about an hour.
Yeah. Heinrich, I want you to think about what you've done. We'll be back in about an hour. I'll give it 2 hours. We got some things to talk about. Man, tough times. But yeah, I tell you what, man, these Nazis, man, whew, they were ambitious. They were very ambitious. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, in every aspect. They're ambitious in killing. They're ambitious in world domination. They're ambitious in technology. They're ambitious in everything. If we could only have that sort of ambition without all the death and genetic cleansing, the world would be a better place. But in fact, because of all of their research, the world jumped ahead dramatically after the war technologically.
As we slowly absorbed, meaning us and other world powers, German scientists, Nazi scientists. Interesting how that happens. Ironically enough, that the pure evil and the motivation for more pure evil ended up advancing the rest of society.
Yeah, in fact, they're I told you they were freezing Jews and thawing them out and bringing them back to life. They found out that if you have a tub, like it's like a hot tub or whatever, but specifically at 122 degrees,
Yeah.
right? And you're frozen, even at the point of hypothermia and passing out or whatever. If you went to 122 degrees, you could be brought back and resuscitated. That is actually the standard now to treat hypothermic patients, even to this day.
Is it wrong to say too that they also are credited with inventing the biggest competitor to Otter Pops, the Jew Pops? No, frozen juice.
Wow,
What just happened?
that really like turned quickly.
Sorry, I'm all out of my Otter Pop drink though, man. These blue balls are fantastic.
Well, another thing that I just have to mention, so that we can hashtag it later when we're advertising the show, is that because of the Glock experiments and the bending space-time, the geographic location of where the Glock experiments were happening and the Foo Fighters late in the war coincide time-wise and location-wise. So it's said that they did learn anti-gravity from the Glock and actually implemented it in some of their fighter jets and made the Foo Fighters off of this technology.
I'll tell you what, Dave Grohl is one of those guys too, man. You know what I mean? Just super, super ambitious. So I'm not surprised that he was involved in that as well.
His whole squad.
Man, we're gonna have to do some more. We're gonna have to do some more Nazi stuff, man. There's got to be something else that we could really dive into here because these guys are intensely just they're dynamic. They're strange. They're strange. Again, I am somewhat obsessed with them being real historical figures. I mean, it's nuts.
Crazy that like the rest of the world just kind of kicked it and like let this power and ideology rise to prominence.
It really is. And I like we had talked about too, you drop a couple of your hardcore ambitions. Maybe there's no reason to ethnically cleanse and destroy an entire race and religion of people. Maybe that's not a good idea, or maybe not in the best interest of advancing the Germanic people. If you drop that and maybe the world domination thing at such an aggressive, accelerated rate, they could have done it very quietly and slowly and one by one overtaken the entire world. Crazy fucking shit.
Yeah, or even if Japan had waited a year or so to get us involved with Pearl Harbor, even if, because at that point the country's general consensus was isolationism. We'll just stay out of this unless we have a need to get into it, right? But then you combine Pearl Harbor with the news of the Jew killings coming out around the same time, and that's when America jumped into it. But had America not have jumped into it, again, that might have split that 6 months to a year schedule. We might all be speaking German right now.
And let's face it too, I mean, the French and the English left to their own without American reinforcements really probably wouldn't have done they wouldn't have that much of an impact on the German troops coming from the West.
And I don't think that Russia could have kept fighting the Germans. They were already nearing the end of their resources. As it was. So I think that the Germans would have just beat Russia one-on-one like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, thank God that we are where we're at in that respect, where we literally could absorb and borrow all of their advancements and turn them into more positive things on a whole. I mean, there's some weapon development, I guess, that you could argue here or there that maybe that's still not a good thing, but let's thank God the Germans didn't win. And here we are. So,
I mean, I like Schnitzel and Jaeger and a good German brew as much as the next guy.
I love bratwurst. I love brats. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But I could deal without the
mass killings and genocide.
Yeah. The do what we say. No, I'm just going to take you and your family out back and shoot you real quick.
And it's for the greater good.
Shitty society.
Don't worry. I'm doing you a favor as I'm doing the rest of the world a favor. You obviously don't deserve to live, and you have the potential of poisoning my ethnic gene pool. So
I don't know. It's very terrifying to even imagine where a German takeover of the world would lead us sociologically. And just like as a human race, it's very, very terrifying to think if that never stopped and was just like let to run wild, where we would be right now.
But hey, positive note, silver lining, Oktoberfest would be one global fucking party. You know what I'm saying? So there's that.
It would. And there'd be soccer everywhere.
Football. Very nice. Well, This was good. It was fun. It's something where, guys, if you haven't really dived into everything that the Nazis were involved with, it's pretty fucking interesting, man. It's just wow. Again, but I think we're done with that. You want to move on? What do you think?
Well, we can move on. I mean, we have a good state of truth today. It's very
Yeah.
simple.
Very simple.
I'm gonna start it off and just say, are you a Star Wars or Star Trek guy, Scott?
It's an interesting question, Bob. It's an interesting question.
I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight.
Well, here's if you would have asked me that, what is it, 2020? If you would have asked me that probably around 2005, I would have said I'm a Star Wars guy. I would have said, you know what? The original 3 movies, fucking dynamite, ingrained and interwoven into the fabric of my being. The second round of movies, besides Jar Jar Binks, were fantastic.
Especially in context, like in the time it came out.
Yeah, time it came out and everything, having that prequel, kind of lining everything up. It was so fun to watch the prequel, being a diehard fan of episode 4, 5, and 6. I would have said Star Wars would tip for me a little bit just with the nostalgia, whatever it is. Now, you fast forward to 2020, and because they've now diluted the franchise with so many other questionable series or sequels and then spin-offs and The Mandalorian, all that kind of stuff, I'm going to have to go Star Trek. And it's not even really a hard choice now. What about you?
So I love the Star Wars universe. Fucking love it. Love the Star Wars universe. One of my favorite sci-fis, and I am a sci-fi guy. Love The Mandalorian. I watch it every Sunday. Every time a new episode comes out, I watch The Mandalorian. Loved the new movies. Fantastic. However, my daughter's name's literally Jadzia. I mean, for those that don't know, she was this character from Deep Space Nine. Super awesome character. I watched Voyager with my wife once, right? And she'd never really liked Star Trek, kind of made fun of me for it. And so I was like, just sit down and watch this episode of Star Trek. This is the very first episode of Voyager. She's like, okay. And I was like, it's got female captains. It's different. She's like, okay, I'll watch that. Right. And then I don't know if you remember the season premiere or the series premiere of Voyager, but in the very first one, they hit a unknown wormhole and they end up in, light years and light years away with no way to get back home within a lifetime. Right. So they're out there on their own. They don't have a Star Trek fleet, they don't have they have to try to make do by, with politics and making nice with the locals and forming alliances. And, it's really interesting. But from the moment they got transported out into, it's like Sector D, it's the Delta Quadrant, right? Well, the moment they got out there, my wife's like, that's crazy. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's like a seven-year series. And we watched every single episode, all 7 years. And so after that, we went on to Deep Space Nine, and they showed Deep Space Nine, which is actually older than Voyager, but she loved it. And then when she met Jadzia Dax, she was like, if we ever have a baby girl, I want to name her Jadzia. And I'm like, cool. If we ever have a boy, I want to name him Wild. Wild West, you know what I'm saying? She's like, you're an idiot. Right? So we did have a girl, and she did name her Jadzia.
That's interesting.
True, a couple years later. And then so I got the consolation prize of the middle name. Mixing it up, we went with Rey, like the character from Star Wars.
Interesting.
Jadzia Rey. So she is an uber sci-fi named kids. So how like in our generation we have like those kids that are named like Star and Rainbow because they're named after fucking LSD hippies in the 60s, right? So she's named after the sci-fi movies.
I don't know how a bunch of people name Rainbow, but if I run into him, I might punch him in the face. But no, this is true. I will say this too, on a whole. Now, again, if to me, and I'm not as big of a fan as the newer Star Wars movies, but I will say that Star Trek, it just has a more in-depth, thought-provoking universe and storyline. You know what I mean? On a whole. And I think that does it for me when you try to compare them in modern time. And now let me ask you this too. I don't know what your favorite rendition or reboot of Star Trek is, but I'm going to go out on a limb here. Are you thinking like Voyager or Deep Space Nine?
I'm a Picard man.
We'll see. I was going to use Next Generation, but as you know, what would be the counter in your mind as the second best? Because I honestly, the original Kirk, take a hike. Spock is cool and everything. Scotty's cool. Whatever. All those guys are great. But I really think that Next Generation is number one. To me, I kind of like Deep Space Nine as number two. That's just me.
Deep Space Nine's really cool. Just because they're babysitting that wormhole. So it introduces there's an infinite number of choices of what's coming through that wormhole, right? Because you got the Dominion, they're always fighting. So that was a really cool element of it to get there. And then in the next series, you saw them like hop on their own wormhole once and start off the whole Voyager series. To me, as far as the series, I like TNG. I'm a Picard guy. That's just where I live. I like the new Picard. I'm glad he's back. That's a fantastic series too. I also, though, the original's okay. It's just a little bit too old school for me. I know that traditionalists are going to think I'm an idiot, but I like Chris Pine playing Captain Kirk. I like the movie. That's the timeline that I'm into. Is like the before the original series, with the whole Chris Pine crew. Zoe Saldana and the whole crew. I forget what's his name that plays Spock, but
I know who you're talking about too. He's in American Horror Stories. Yeah, he's in a couple things. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Great actor. I love that series of movies. I don't know if Chris Pine will ever do another Star Trek or not, but those are really awesome. So for me, I think that it's probably TNG, and the next is kind of the series of movies with Chris Pine as the Captain Kirk.
Interesting. Yeah, I also like Enterprise. I thought that was a great reboot too with Scott Bakula too, kind of like the genesis of everything, right? Because that predates the original, right? In timeline.
Well, it took us back to a very interesting timeline in history, right? Well, in future history, about when Homeboy first made the warp drive, right? And that prompted the Vulcans to make first contact, because that's the whole rule about making contact or not, is if they've created the warp drive, then the Federation would be able to make contact. If not, you were breaking the Federation law, right?
All right. So what I want to do now is I want to have everybody dry off from getting so wet from our conversation about Star Wars and Star Trek for just a minute and try one more out here. What do you think about Lord of the Rings versus Harry Potter?
Well, I love Lord of the Rings, but I like being able to watch Harry Potter with my children. So I think I'm going to, as a father, I think I lean more towards Harry Potter.
It's interesting. I remember myself prior to, because I saw Lord of the Rings. I saw them all in theaters when they came out, right? Harry Potter, not so much. I honestly looked at Harry Potter and the marketing that they had in the early 2000s, and I was like, seems very kiddie-ish. You know what I mean? Very, very, I don't know, just... I almost thought it was like just a completely whitewashed, like G-rated version of Lord of the Rings. I thought maybe it was like just a horrible kind of kid-friendly version of it. So I used to make fun of it a lot. Now, I will tell you this, with Jamie, when we started first dating and everything too, she had all the movies that were out. They didn't have all of them out yet. I think they went up to like 5 or 6 at that point. But making fun of them, I see them there in her video collection, DVD collection, and I'm like, yeah, blah, 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 just making fun of it and everything. I sit down, I watch all of them in a row, and I was balls deep in Harry Potter. And can I say I was balls deep in Daniel Radcliffe? But no, I honestly do think I'm on the same page here. I will go Harry Potter, and not very simply because I can watch it with my daughter, and I do a lot. She even actually has the books that we read to her every night, going through the whole thing. I just think it's a little bit more fun of a series. Don't get me wrong. I love Lord of the Rings too. I do love it. Just a little bit more entertaining. And like you were kind of saying too, it's more full bodied for the entire family, more full bodied for anybody really. I just think I think everybody can take a little bit more away from Harry Potter versus Lord of the Rings. Might get some hate mail after that one. But I'm on the same page.
I saw an interesting meme, right? And it was just like it was an idea for a new Harry Potter, right? And it was Adam Driver, right? Who played in Star Wars, right? Adam Driver as a young Professor Snape.
Oh,
How about that?
I like that. I really like that because honestly, his character in Star Wars, it's like he's like the little whiny millennial bitch version of Darth Vader, if you ask me.
Well, yeah, but as far as episodes 1 through 3, Darth Vader was also a whiny little bitch,
He
right?
sure was. He sure
So
was.
that kind of makes sense that the Sith Lords are whiny little bitches because of the narcissism it takes to be a Sith.
Okay, so yeah, they're all kind of like little pubescent fucking
Yeah,
douchebags.
because if you're a Jedi, you're okay with your master being better than you. But if you're a Sith and you're a narcissist, you're not okay knowing that there's someone out there that's better and you have the ability to kill them, and you do, right? So I don't know. Looking way too deep into that one. I spent way too much time psychoanalyzing Darth Vader and the Sith.
You're fine. You're fine. Now, I had scribbled down a couple others on here, but if you can think of any off the top of your head, I just kind of wrote down some generic stuff here. What's next, Bob? We got a couple more we can do at least.
Well,
Give it to me, Bob.
I don't know. I mean, there's always the you have on here Coke or Pepsi, but I would say it's more Coke or Dr. Pepper.
That's interesting. I disagree on that one. I would say Dr. Pepper is in the conversation, but these two are they are the cola kings, if you ask me. And just so you know my answer, I'm going Coca-Cola.
I'm from Texas, so I'm a DP man.
This is true. This is true. Well, I guess I
grew up with the sweet pruny flavor of Dr. Pepper.
It does have a really unique taste. It is. It's pretty good. Okay, so you're a Dr. Pepper guy. I'm going Coke over Pepsi, hands down, just because I think it tastes better.
Also, I go Coke over Pepsi too.
Well, and here's the other thing too. You get me a Mexican Coke, in the bottles from Mexico,
oh, yeah.
with real sugar.
Costco.
Yeah, and not high fructose corn syrup. That beats any fucking cola out there as a Mexican Coke.
I don't. You probably remember seeing some of these back in the day. I remember growing up around junkyards and stuff like that, and these old Coke machines that they still had the column on the side that would roll out the Coke in the bottle, and it had Coke and Sprite and
had a little bottle opener too. At the end,
there's like Barks root beer, A&W or whatever also in there, and then you on the machine had the bottle opener. So legit. Saw one on Amazon you could buy for like $1,500, by the way. Stock it full of Cokes from Costco, and then you're in business.
Well, I've got nothing else responsible to spend my money on. I'm ordering two. You want one?
That's pretty first world, huh?
All right. We'll write that bitch off. It's for the show. Okay.
That's right. Well, we need two because we have two filming locations. So it makes sense. It
does. It does. All right. Okay. Well, that's good. I like this. I like this little what's better kind of scenario here. I guess just a couple of more. You a hot or cold guy? What do you prefer?
As far as temperature, like
temperature, atmosphere, yes.
Okay. I'm a cold guy. So these days I'm a little bit husky, right? So I run hot anyway, but I've always ran hot. Right?
He's got a lot of layers.
That's right. So I run hot like whale blubber, right? So it takes a lot to cool me down. But I've always been a cold guy. I've always been a football guy. I've always been an autumn guy because that's when football. Again, I'm from Texas. That's just like you grow up as a kid. You're outside playing football when it gets cold, and that's just kind of it. So, hunting again when it's getting cold and it's November, you're out hunting. It just always went down in the fall for me, and then the winter. Not so much January or February, but for me, I'm a cold guy and I like autumn. I think it's probably the best time for me.
It's interesting that you say that because I would like to sit here and think that I despise the cold in the sense that when it's really, really cold, I feel like I'm miserable. However, if you put me in a situation like I was this summer without any air conditioning in my house here, when it's close to 100 degrees, all of a sudden my mind changes a little bit on that thought process and says, you know what? Here's the thing with me. I'm a summer baby, as you are. We're both born in July, right? I do love summertime activities, but I do think that it's always more comfortable to be cold and be able to put on more layers to keep yourself warm than vice versa, right? Where it's so goddamn hot where you can only take off all the layers of clothing before you start seeming very odd if you're starting to scrape layers of your skin off to cool down. So you really can't go that far that way. And if you think about it too, the other reason why I have to say I end up preferring the cold as well is think about summertime activities. when you go to the pool or to the beach, what's the most refreshing part of that? It's
The
not
cold water.
exactly. It's not that you're like sitting out there getting a tan burning. It's that you can do that for a while, get some sun, get some vitamin D, get a nice little tan going or a red going in my in my situation. And then you can go literally take a dip and cool the fuck off. It's the cooling down element of a lot of summertime activities that are the tits of it, right? The bee's knees. So I have to say I'm the same way. And another thing, we talked about it too, like places like Phoenix and Death Valley and stuff like that. I mean,
Uninhabitable.
yeah, it's uninhabitable, dude. Who wants to, like you talked about too, who wants to put on their fucking $200 pair of Jordans, right? And walk outside and have the bottom of the sole start melting on the sidewalk? No bueno, dude. No bueno.
Yeah, there's a few places that I just wouldn't want to live, and Phoenix and Tucson are sitting at the top of my list.
Yeah, well, for me, it's
no offense to you Arizonans, but
cool the fuck down over there, right? I will say this: they probably got the best AC in the country besides like Florida or something like that. But for me, see, it's interesting that you say Arizona. I'm more of like the Bible Belt guy. That's my no fly zone, what have you. Alabama, Mississippi, that little area right there. That's where you won't see me very much. Let me ask you this: another one. You a daytime guy? Are you nighttime guy?
I'm a morning guy.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm already at the point in my life to where I'm like a 5 a.m. guy. I'm drinking my coffee. I'm on my second cup, third cup by the time the sun's coming up already. I've already gotten today's headlines. I've already like done my reports for the day. Like I'm a morning guy. I love it. I love getting up at like 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning even.
I really like what you said there at this point in my life, because I was just reflecting on this, and I did no prep on these. Obviously, they're very simple things, but I would have to say in my youth, up until about my, I'll say early 30s, I would answer that question. I'm a night guy. I'm a night out. I'm up all night. You know what I mean? I love to party. Nighttime, when the nightfall hits, is when things get crazy. Things get fun. You can go out to the clubs. You can go visit with your friends, whatever. We party all night. Watching the sunrise still starts with the night. However, you fast forward a little bit to mid 30s, late 30s. I'm not going to say necessarily I'm as much of a morning guy as you, but there's something about the night now where I'm just like, you know what? It's dark. It's late. It's time to hang it up. It's time to hang it up. I got a lot of shit to do in the morning. You know what I mean?
Well, Scott, they say nothing good happens after midnight. I would even amend that and say nothing good happens after 9:30.
You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. It's funny how that question right there to me is purely subjective with how, I guess, mature you are to a certain extent. Now, don't get me wrong. There's certain people out there. I believe you told me this a long time ago too. I hate to point this out, and like I'm literally remembering something from a long time. But I remember when we first met, you said that your mom was somebody that had like insomnia, didn't sleep very well, and she loved just like doing shit at night. I remember you saying that. And I know there's a lot of people like that where they start getting fired up and they start getting very energetic as there's less and less people that are normally awake too. I think there's this kind of weird kind of intuitive thing that happens to night owls like that. And I used to think I was very much like that, but now, just like you, man, I mean, after a while, I was like, look, I'm not going to sit here and watch infomercials all night. Like I used to think was really cool when I was like in my teens and early 20s, like fucking, just blitzed out of my mind. There's really no fun in that when you got to wake up in the morning and actually do shit. So interesting that we both kind of tip that way on the scale.
Well, welcome to middle age.
Don't get me wrong, though. I still am a big fan of the evening, though. Huge fan. There's just too many things that go on when the night falls and the sun goes down that are super fun. Usually concerts are that way. However, though, I love festivals that start at noon. I always think like I'm getting like, early on.
Getting your money's worth, right?
Yeah. I was like, dude, I'm here. The sun's blazing down. I'm wearing all black because I think I'm gothic. And here we are in 100-degree temperature and I'm getting shit done. I'm getting my money's worth. These were $300 tickets, but I'm going to watch 70 bands before the sun goes down. This is awesome.
Because I started drinking with breakfast.
Yes. Okay. One more I got.
Okay.
A nice, refreshing cold beer or a glass of scotch. I know that's a little harder than you think.
It kind of depends on the setting. If it's summer and I'm out doing something or at the pool or whatever, I want that ice cold beer. But if it's the evening a movie's on and we're just kind of chilling, I want that double scotch.
Like how you threw the double in there. It is funny that you answer it that way because I'll give you an example too. I did the Tough Mudder 4 or 5 years ago or something like that, whatever, 13, 14 miles of trekking and all kinds of, what is it? I'm trying to think, what do you got to go through stuff like obstacles, like obstacle courses and stuff like that, right? By the time I was done doing that, it was up in Snowmass in the mountains or what have you, up by like Aspen Vale area. 3-4 hours later, completely winded, and on the finish line of this thing, right? You're just totally done. You're spent. You're just knocked out physically. They literally give you 2 Dos Equis, like loggers, at the finish line. I can't even think of a time there's been a more refreshing drink of beer that I've had after literally the most intense workout for like 4 hours straight, and then through the finish line, somebody handing you a couple of cups of ice cold Dos Equis lager. Just be like, oh, glistening in the sunlight, just feeling so good. But you're absolutely right. It's definitely you need some context to answer that
wouldn't
question.
It work so well if it was a big ass bottle of scotches.
As I said, dude, you're totally winded. You're dehydrated like bugs. Like, here you go, a 25-year-old, glass of scotch or something like that. No, wouldn't be the same, Bob. And you're absolutely right. But I like what you said there too. A nice little nightcap. Just relaxing, having a cigar or something like that. And you go ahead and pour yourself a nice 3-finger glass of some really good scotch. Whew, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. But if I had to decide on a whole, weirdly enough, I'm going to go with that ice cold beer.
Yeah. Perfectly acceptable.
Thank God that you're okay with that. Validation. I feel like I'm on Parler right now. And I just told you something very racist. And you said, you know what? You're good to go.
Welcome to the team. Team Parler. Well,
man,
that's it for us today.
I think so.
I'm sorry to inform everyone, but
some things got to end soon. And what we just did there is we gave people blue balls, and we apologize, but we got to cut it short. We can't wait till you guys climax today. So thank you so much for joining me and Bob once again. We love doing this. We're having a great time. We love that you guys are still listening. We think there's more people listening, right, Bob? I'm just going to go with that. You look at the analytics. We're going to say there's more people listening.
Assume the sales,
right?
Assume the
okay,
sale.
I'm assuming the sale. Okay, yeah. Confidence, power. Okay, but no, seriously, guys, it's been super fun. At nauseum though, but guys, help us out, get in there, like and subscribe, write us a review on the podcast platforms. Apple really helps out a lot. Keep listening to us. And we still have that Patreon going on. We still do that, guys. It's only a couple bucks, up to $30 or something like that. Find the level that you're comfortable with, get out there and support us, because the more that we get from you, the more cash that we get from you, the more we're going to be able to put back into the show and give you better content and a better product. So until next week, guys, we love you all. Please make sure to empty your ball bag so you don't get blue balls. That's my PSA. Bob?
Make sure to wolf down a couple of blue balls. That's it for me. Love you guys.
See ya.
She's like, you gotta get your finger like halfway in your asshole and wash it clean. And I'm like,
cleans with their finger.
And I was like, so you wash the. She's like, wash it clean, wash it clean, wash it clean, wash it clean, wash it clean. I was like, clean.